Hi, my name is Sammy. Your grounded mystic friend. And first, I want to welcome you home. But I gotta ask you a question. When do you feel like it's time to let go of control? When do you think that control is no longer conducive or helpful in your life's journey? When do you feel, or at what point do you think it's time to surrender and flow? Because I am a hard learner. Okay, I am fixed. Okay, I'm a Taurus. So surrender and flow don't go so well for me. It just doesn't. When I have to surrender and flow, that means that there has been so much happening in my life I have no control over. And I have to legit not accept, but surrender because I see no other path to go. And I want to help you avoid going down that way, that path. If you're a fixed sign or if you have a hard time letting go, surrendering and flowing, because we all have to experience that in life. We just do. And I feel like now is a good time. We are ending a lot of things. I don't know if you experienced, but I know that you have a friend or someone who is experiencing so many endings in their life and they don't know whether to look left or right, up or down, or what to do. They just know that so many doors are closing without the promise that doors will open or new doors will open. We know they're going to open, but when, how, what? What do we do? Who are we? Grieving, transformations, layoffs. Like, there's so many things changing. When I say layoffs, right? A lot of us feel like our career is a big part of our identity. So when layoffs happen, who are we? What do we do? So that's why I said layoffs. But control is behind all of it. And what does it mean when we have to stay between the doors closing and there's doors opening? That I feel like we have a viewpoint of knowing that there's nothing to really control. Our daily routines, our habits, the people, what do we do, right? When the control is now asking what's next and you really don't know. That's where surrender and flow comes into place. I know it's easier said than done, and I know it's hard when you have one door closing and you're in between the other one opening. I want you to know in that space of between is so important because your emotions, things that you've experienced in maybe in trauma or past times or from your childhood, that's when the dark night of the shadow comes into place because now you're in the space of the unknown. And that's a place a lot of humans don't like to be. I mean, look at the society that we live in, right? Everything is honestly based on control. Capitalism, consumerism, you know, that is all based on control, right? So within our personal lives, when our children are moving on, there's a divorce, there's a new marriage, there's a new job, there is just the in the space of I don't know what to do. Most importantly, I don't know who I am. Control tries to take the driver's seat, but honestly, that really is in the space where you have to truly surrender and flow. How and why? I want you to stay tuned. If you are still here, please hit that subscribe button. I have a goal of going to 10,000 and I will greatly appreciate it. I'm so thankful for you being a part of that. So I want to talk about how control will stunt your growth and transformation in life because us as humans, we aren't supposed to be the same. We are here to evolve, to change, to grow. In a lot of sectors of our life, right? If you've been married to someone for 50 years, for instance, it doesn't mean that the person that you married 50 years ago is still the same 50 years later. There's a lot of evolution, there's a lot of change. And in any evolution and transformation and change, honestly, is a risk. And risk to me is just releasing control. It's accepting surrender and accepting the flow. The hardest thing I feel like any fixed sign or any person who's been through a lot of trauma, who's been through PTSD, who's been through a lot of emotional manipulation, who's been, you name it, control becomes a safety net. At least that was it for me. Control was my safety. I was a type, I had to predict conversations before they happened, right? To understand emotional regulation for myself and the person I'm talking to. I had to get 3 to 5 business days before I went to any function. All right. Because I wanted to have answers before they was asked. I was afraid to pause. I felt like I had to know everything. Perfectionism, okay, is capital C in perfectionism. With capital C, I'm talking about control, right? I was closed off to new experiences. I didn't want to try new things because I was afraid of how people will look at me, right? That's control in its own self. I didn't talk a lot about myself, right? Because I was afraid of how people would judge me. Control in its own self. And then I realized that doing these things, well, yeah, it was comfortable. Yeah, my brain was protecting me, but I wasn't necessarily feeling fulfilled in life. I wasn't. I wasn't feeling like I was approaching new experiences the way a new person would experience it, the way a person would feel, right? Even right now, how I'm feeling like I'm not even saying the right thing, or if anybody's going to pay attention to what I'm saying. In a way, it's control, right? Because I'm doing something different. I'm talking to you. I don't have a script today. When I say surrender and flow, I am authentic to it. I just have a little outline of things that I need to talk about, but I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm just letting it flow. And I pray that it's here to help someone, at least to relate, to know that you're not by yourself when it comes to controlling routines, conversations, events, jobs. I get you. I get it. It's a safety net. But I do want to tell you something, and what I experienced. It really doesn't matter how much you try to control something, whether it be a relationship, a job, a person. Life is going to be what life is going to be. It's better you look within yourself, look within what traumas you experienced, and learn to release the control so you can trust yourself when it's time to surrender and flow, because we all do. We all have that tower moment where life just lifes. It just lifes and we don't know why. Sometimes it comes in waves. Sometimes it's just like stack, stack, stack. Like this happened, this happened, this happened. What does that mean? It's just human nature to want to control your environment. But sometimes the environment itself will change. So what do you do when that happens? Most people, either they blame the environment itself, taking no accountability, or don't even see it as a learning lesson, and try to control even more without learning to fully surrender and flow. And some people just surrender and flow and accept life for what it is, and see that life is trying to change something within them, and they have to go with it. They have to flow with that. One thing that I noticed I controlled was not getting hurt. And I realized how much that impacted my relationships. I got to change my battery. My battery's dying. I'll be right back. One thing I realized, I had control issues, and this is just the one thing, okay? It's not even everything. But one thing I realized that I had a lot of control, or I had issues with control, was relationships and friendships, right? And I get where it comes from, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about me realizing that I had issues with control. And the issues, what the controlling factor was, I was afraid to accept new friendships in because I didn't want to be hurt like how I've been hurt before. And in my close friendships, I experienced abandonment. I've experienced messing up. And when I messed up, that friend would not talk to me anymore without us having a conversation, right? And I, I'll even say this. When I messed up, what I did was I had, I was going through a lot, and it was my friend's birthday. And I forgot to wish my friend a happy birthday. It wasn't on my mind. I had so many things going on my mind that day. And when I realized it the next day, I immediately called and said, oh my gosh, happy birthday. I'm so sorry. And I didn't hear back from that person. I didn't hear back from that person for like 9 months. And that person told me how they felt. And, at the time we kindled and became friends again, but that friendship's over, right? But in my head, how I took it as, not to mess up in this friendship because the person can disappear, right? And it made me also realize that I can't have, or I shouldn't have, a lot of friends because I don't want to mess up on dates and stuff and I don't hear from them again, right? This is just me trying to protect myself. It's not healthy, but it was me at the time trying to protect myself. And I just remember, as I was meeting new people in my life, I just wanted to be their associates. I had light conversations. I didn't want to talk about anything deep. I felt like I wasn't a good friend. So I just felt like the way to protect myself, the way to control my environment is just to keep people away from me by being light, right? By having having simple conversations, keeping people from a distance. That was my way to control. That wasn't healthy for me, right? Because we all need people. Now, I know we live in a new time where it's hard to make friendships, especially as adults. I'm in my 30s, and I will sit here and tell you, like, I have placed boundaries, and because of those boundaries that I've enforced, I used to be a people pleaser, okay? I have lost my choice, but friendships were lost because I've chosen me. I've met new people, but I have kept them apart from me. Or I kept them at a safe distance. And I kept them at a safe distance because there's past trauma that I have when it comes to friends. So to protect myself, I say, well, I'll just keep associates, right? But that's not healthy, right? Because we all need human connections. We all need friendships, right? We need that support, not just relationships, but friendships. But that was just one way of me realizing and witnessing that control is starting to not be in my favor. It's just not healthy, right? It's not healthy. And how I'm trying to control. I will control routines and, be hard on myself, but that ain't healthy. So I don't know if you have issues with control with relationships and friendships. I know definitely relationships when it comes to love. It's hard for people to be vulnerable. People want someone else to be vulnerable, but you yourself won't do it. And how does that balance out in relationships? It doesn't balance at all. You have to learn to be in that space. Remember I said earlier, be in that space between one door closing and another door opening. There is that surrender and flow. Now, these are some grounding techniques that I'm doing for myself to learn to release control. It's not necessarily about friendships, but it's about releasing control. And I want to share them with you, and I ask that you do them with me. And with continuous work, I know that it'll help you learn to release and let go of control. This is the part where I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button and work this grounding technique with me. Don't, this video and what I'm doing is not about drama. It's not about this. I truly want to help people learn to become more authentic with themselves. I really do feel that in this world, if we are more authentic with ourselves, if we're more honest with ourselves, we would then start to love ourselves. And as we start to love ourselves, we will love our neighbors. And with that, we'll stop trying to control everyone else's view of life, right? That's what my belief is. So this is my way of helping society, helping the world by doing grounding techniques and being honest with themselves and have emotional regulation and authentic awareness to who they truly are and be their best self. Because I do feel like, and I would love to see a world in peace. And a world in peace means I accept who I am, you accept who you are. If we don't agree, that's okay. But we can still live in peace. You get what I'm saying? You catch me? Great. So these are some grounding methods that I've done to release control and allow myself to surrender and to flow, right? One method that I've done was the shower method, right? I do it till this day, okay? I'm asking you to try it and comment below and let me know how it works for you. At the end of your shower, nice warm shower, grateful for that shower, it feels so good. But at the end of your shower, change that dial, that knob, whatever it is that you have, to cold. As cold as you want it to be, but definitely a different temperature than what you had when you went into the shower. Change it to cold, right? What you listen for is what your brain is saying. Oh, it's too cold. Ooh, whatever your brain is saying, just listen to it, all right? Just the first time, just listen to yourself. The second time, when you do it again, the shower, right? You tell yourself, it's cold, but I'm grateful to have water flowing on me. It may be cold, but I'm grateful. Then you can start to convince yourself, it's cold, but I can take it. See, doing this shower method allows you to embrace temperatures, whether it's hot, cold, warm, or whatever that you like. It allows you to release the control. You're releasing the control of the temperature, and you're surrendering to the change of the water, and you are still flowing. Doing that shower method will allow you to realize that you don't have to control everything in life. You just sometimes have to surrender and flow. It allows you to be at more peace with things you can't control. Okay? Another thing is an anchor phrase or anchor method, right? If you ever feel yourself trying to control a situation, right? Or you're trying to predict a conversation, right? I want you to take a deep breath, right? From your belly. Okay? You can put your hand on your heart because I want you to touch something. Grounding, touching something. You're touching you, okay? I do not have to manage this moment, okay? In this moment, I'm worthy of being present. And it's okay that I don't know this moment, okay? It's okay not to know in this moment because it is. Sometimes we control because we've experienced some trauma where we didn't know something and we got in trouble because we didn't know something, right? So doing that anchor phrase will help you be okay with not knowing, right? Real simple. My sister was with me for the weekend, and I was taking her back to the train station. And she was like asking, what would happen? She's like, because we were like running late. She's supposed to be there like 15 minutes before. We got her there like to the minute of, right? And she was asking me, she was like, what would happen by any chance? She asked me, do you by any chance know what would happen if I missed my train? And what I would have usually done, I would have got on Google, figured it out, and told her the answer. But in that moment, I was like, I don't know. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I realized we don't always have to know the answer. That comes with a lot of perfection. When you are striving to be perfect, which I don't know why we still trying to do that in 2025 or 2026, whenever I post this. But when you try to reach for this perfection, you feel like you got to know everything. And honestly, it really takes you nowhere, because you're steady trying to be perfect, not be judged, have everything, the T's crossed, the I's dotted. And there's that one person who's being authentically themselves, and they are not trying to be perfect. They're just trying to be themselves. So what I am trying to do in helping you with these grounded methods and being authentic myself is letting you know that you just have to be yourself. No matter what society is trying to push or blame or shove down your throats, you came into this world to be you, to be surrounded around communities and people who accept you for you. And that's not going to be everybody. And that in itself is okay. As long as you are comfortable with you, I promise you the other people will flow. Remember I told you, with friendships, it was hard for me because I was trying to control. Were they really friends for me without me being authentically myself? Without me authentically being who I am as a friend? Sometimes I am flip-floppy. And when I say flip-floppy, I'm always loyal to who I am. But I am not always available to someone's emergency. Sometimes I don't feel like talking on the phone for hours on end. Sometimes I just want to sit in silence with my friend and we don't even have to say anything. We just connect. You get what I'm saying? That's me. Sometimes I don't need friends just to constantly call me when they have a problem. A friend just to check in on me, to see how I'm doing. I check in on them, see how they're doing. We have some fun banter, some fun times. A friend who likes to have a little adult beverage and do some gardening stuff. That's the kind of friend I love. And I know he or she is out there, right? But in my state of control, how am I going to meet this friend if I'm trying to be perfect? How are you going to go in this next phase of your life if you're trying to be perfect? No one asked you to be perfect when a door closed. Another one is opening. All we're asking you is to surrender and flow. Surrender into what you don't know, but have the faith to know and the goals to know that you're going somewhere. That's where you're going. You're flowing. And I'm so grateful that you flew right onto this video and that you're still here. Hit that subscribe button if you feel called to join this Mystic Vibe tribe, because you're my friend now, right? We vibing. I thank you so much for being here. And before we close this, I want you just to take a deep breath. Excel your day. And know that you're coming home to yourself. Friend, get some rest. You are worthy and deserving of it. Many blessings, and I'll see you next time.